Oh, somebody said that during lunch? That's. Oh, actually, for those, for the basketball fans, one of my instructors, Corey, who you have seen, built this app that you may want to check out. This is him. You might have seen him around. He was one of my instructors, and he built this NBA stats by the minute. I think you guys might want to check that out. Like for me, this doesn't make sense because I don't know anything about basketball, but you can select a player, and then it tells you like stats by the minute. And well, you'll have to read like the README to understand this, but it seems pretty interesting though. I'm gonna share this on. Oh, I guess let's check out his website and the projects. Where are we? Cool. So what we're going to do for the afternoon is we're going to do a review of the CSS assessment for the, well, not the assessment, the assignment, the Twitter assignment. And I feel like that should take us about an hour and a half. And then after that, you are going to be working in the CSS display and the Z-index lab. I think it should, you will have until midnight. I think we should have enough time to do that one. It's just about replicating a page, and I recently uploaded a screenshot so that you not only have to read, because sometimes like the description might be redundant or not very clear. A screenshot can clarify a lot of stuff. Cool. So let's do this CSS login page for Twitter. What was the most like challenging part of that? Ganesh? The background image for the bird. Anybody else? Or a lot of people agree with that. Any other challenging parts? Yes, Joanne? Let me take some notes of that. Give me 1 sec. I'm gonna open, since I'm going to be doing it, like let's do here. Let me just clone the repo. What was the name? CSS Pursuit Core. Cool. Oh, and yeah, you didn't have any HTML as a starting point or anything else, right? So the index HTML, index and let me just take some notes here. So the challenging parts were the background image, then layout. That will be like grid flexbox, just boxes. Cool. Cameron, you had something?
Oh, no.
Or Douglas? Oh, one of the other challenges part.
Dealing with font files and having the icons.
Icons. Cool. Anything else that was challenging? I think it was an interesting assignment. Right. I think this covers basically how do we organize, like with the tools that we have learned, divs, input boxes, buttons, how do we organize them in the page, and so that we can represent what the Twitter login page looks like. Some of you, I saw a lot of you like inspecting the actual Twitter page, which I was really happy to see, and trying to see like what divs they have and like what order they have them in and how they separated their content. Cool. So first of all, I guess like let's look at the Twitter page. I have to log out. So we see a couple of things. What are some of the things that we see? Like starting to think about, like we have in the web, we have divs, and those are just general purpose boxes. Here, if we divide this page into boxes and its content, what kind of boxes do we have and where? Peter? The blue part and the white part, and the footer. Okay, so we have basically we have a blue part and then a white part, and then Peter said footer. Cool. What else? Owen.
I was just scratching my
Oh, okay. Other boxes that we can see here, they might not be as clear. I agree that these are like the three more clear boxes that we can find, but there are more. Yes, Joanne? The one in the background. So yes, we can see that we see this bird, and we don't know if it's cropped or if the entire bird is there. So a way in which we could find out if the image is cropped is like can we see more or less of the image as we resize? Doesn't seem like. Well, actually, you can see here. You can see here. I don't know, can you see the pointer from the back? Yeah. You can see here how much of the head of the bird you can see, right? But once I move this smaller, I can see a little bit more of it. Here, look at how much I'm looking at here, right? So that gives an idea that the image might actually be complete in the background. In fact, if we inspect, we can find the entire image. And it is it's kind of hard, but I hover over here and we can see this element that says it's a weird element. First of all, but it's this one. Let me add some here. Is this element, and this is a tag that we haven't seen, and we will not see formally in the curriculum, the SVG tag or SVG element or image. And it turns out that this, if we could somehow bring the bird to the forefront, I wonder if we could do it here. If we try to do like z index 100, we can see that the image did come now the image is on top of the text. Here there's some text that we cannot see. Maybe I'll need to put a really big number so that it's on top of everything else. No, I don't think so. Anyway, so this is an image in a special format. This is an image that is not being used with the image tag. It doesn't have a source attribute. And these images are called, actually I don't remember what it's called, but let's just Google it. Scalable vector graphics, that's what it stands for. So that's sort of a weird name, but we can look at it if, you can see like when you zoom in into an image, you can see how it becomes distorted. Like you can see like the pixels, right? Let's look at like this image. You can see that this is not very clear. That's because this image is a regular image that has some pixels as its measurements, and it doesn't have more pixels than that, basically. And this image is also known as a binary image, right? It has some pixels high and some pixels wide. But a scalable vector graphic is an image that, rather than having certain pixels high and wide, how could I describe it? It describes a pattern, rather. It's an image that is being sort of drawn by the browser as the image gets interpreted. So we can see here that the image, the SVG tag, has a bunch of stuff inside, just like you have divs inside other divs. We can see that the image has a title, etc. And we can see this weird looking element here, G, that I don't remember what it stands for. But we can, inside of one of those, we can see this thing called a path. And then this path has a property D, and inside that, there's like a really long string with a bunch of weird stuff. And what this is doing is describing the image. This is describing where the angles are and where how tall the image should be, and where the different feathers are. In fact, I wonder if we try to change something of this, will we see any change? The change is for 71. No visual change. We might have changed something that is outside of our view. But I just wanted to show you that this image, I could edit as an HTML because it's an SVG image, and I can copy all this SVG content, go on my text editor, create a new file, and paste it here. This is the code that makes up that image, and I'm going to call it just Twitter. So we could have used this, but I don't expect you to be able to find this image and save it and then utilize this one. But here you can see that this is what makes up the image. And in fact, this looks very much like a very different HTML document, but it still has some tags that open and close. They have some attributes, so there's some similarities there. But look at what happens once I open this in my my Finder, for instance, Reveal in Finder. And I could open this with, let's open it with Chrome, and we have the image here. So this image again is not a regular image. It's an image that rather than just being like sort of hard coded is more dynamic, and internally it describes the path that make up this image. The cool thing is that it doesn't matter how much I zoom in, it will always be like the same, very well defined. Even I think even if I do this, but I think that will be rather the pixels of my screen rather than the pixels of the page. But anyway, so cool. So we found that underneath all this, there's actually that full image is complete. So it's not cropped. So we found out the image is complete. Let me just refresh this to put it back. Now the question is, how do we put the image in the background? Any ideas? And also thinking about, could another box be helpful for that? I mean,
I had the div container for the two,
mm-hmm.
the blue and white, and I set up a background image for this one using CSS.
That's a really good approach. So what Amin did is he has a bigger div that has all of this inside, and he called it a container.
I took just the two ones, the two.
Oh, the two, not this one.
Yeah.
Okay. That's still good. That could still work. And in this outer container, because the other ones are inside, he set the image background, which is a CSS property that we could use to put stuff in the background of a div. And then because these two divs are inside of that bigger one, and we saw that when the elements are children of a container, those elements, if we think of it in 3D, will get put on top of the parent. So if we have a div, and I also discovered a really cool tool that I can show you to see the page sort of in 3D. And they did this yesterday, like before coming in, because I was thinking, how can I demonstrate this without that will just help visualize it a little bit more. And I wish I had this when I was learning. But let's look at this. Let's look at so I'm gonna write this layout in my HTML. I should have a head. Yes. Yes. Oh, I think I didn't post the link, but I am recording. Let me just share that. Not this, not this. Yeah. So I'm going to create these boxes. I'm going to link my CSS. Text, no, style sheet. And then href index.css. Then I'm going to have my body. Inside the body, here we have 4 boxes. Let's call one the main container. Class container. Inside this container we have 2 boxes. Let's call one like left, and let's make another one called right. And outside of these 2 boxes and the container we have something called the footer. And I'm just gonna call it div. Here, since I'm only gonna have one, I could use ID. Let's use ID because we know we're going to only have one. ID, I'm gonna call this footer. Cool, so I have these 3 boxes, and if I open this in my browser, I will see nothing. Open index.html. Here we have nothing. The elements are there, it's just that their content, they don't have any content. Therefore, they don't have any height, because by default, all HTML elements, actually that's not true, all div elements will be as high as the content that they have inside. If they don't have any content, their height is just 0. So I'm going to give them some, measurements and CSS. So I'm going to grab my container by the class name. And I'm going to make it height. We know that the width will be of a div will occupy all the available space in the horizontal axis. So I just need to give this a height. I'm going to give it a height of 500 pixels. And just to visualize it, I want to give also the left and the right a height, specify height. And maybe 50% of those of the 500 pixels that the parent will have. So let's see what we have in the screen. Still nothing. Why don't we have nothing? Like why aren't we seeing our elements? Douglas? Yes, correct. We don't have anything to display, right? Our elements are here. If I inspect, I can see that their width and height should be applying if I link if I linked the CSS correctly. Oh, so it seems that we can see that their height is still 0. So that means that maybe I didn't import the CSS correctly. I mean, great, thank you. Yes, I always get confused on this. Periods or dots are for class names. IDs are hashtag or pound sign. Thank you. Okay, let's look at it. Okay, now we have our container, and we have, I think it's just too high. But we have our container that is 500 pixels, and then we have 2 divs, left and right. They're not in their left and right sides yet. They're just like on top of each other. Left is before right, and then I have a footer, which is just a div that at the moment doesn't have any height. So let's give it some height. Let's do height, maybe 100 pixels. Well, now our footer down here has 100 pixels. Cool. So now we have put some boxes on top, and what we currently have is something like this. We have the same container, and then 2 boxes in here, and then we have the footer. Right, but that's not what we want. We want them to be sort of to have 2 columns. We could think of them in terms of columns. But also before we do that, I want to give this container a background color so that we see at least something. I'm gonna give it aquamarine. And I also want to give like left and right some other background colors, but I want them to be different, just so that we differentiate them for now. Background color. Right, and I also I want this background color. Actually, no, let's do this first. I'm going to give the container a background color aquamarine. And we get our container with that background color. That's what we're seeing. So by default, we can see that the left and right containers are there. They're just stacked on top of each other. And we can see that their background color is also aquamarine. Why do you think is that? Even though I didn't set up explicitly, I didn't ask the left side to be explicitly aquamarine. Peter?
They just inherit that it's a child of.
So that's one, correct. So that's one option. Let's look at, I was actually considering that option earlier today. That maybe the div will inherit by default the background color of its parent. But let's look at here, let's look at the left. Let's see if it's actually inheriting anything. So we can see here it's inheriting from the HTML, but that's not the background color. And even if we go here to compute it and we try background color, we see that the background color default value is something that maybe we haven't seen. RGBA is 00000. I mean,
it doesn't mean they're transparent.
Correct. So that means that by default, div elements in the browser have a transparent background. So this left and right, their background is transparent. That's why we can see the color from the behind them, which is the background color of the container. So that's one thing. So they are transparent by default. So elements, divs, at least divs are transparent by default. I think paragraphs, h tags, all of those are also transparent. A button is not transparent by default. But okay, so we have these two. Now, what I want to show you is if we could look at this in a 3D way, where we can see that the left and right containers are on top of the background, and I think we can with the tool that I discovered. So there is this. Yesterday I was looking up how to do HTML DOM in 3D. Sort of we could see the elements in 3D. I might not be able to. Oh. And then there were some tools before that would allow you to do that. Like this one was a Firefox extension that where you could see the page like that, and then you could see that a div was on top of the other. But this was removed. And then here, exploring a little bit more, I found this Reddit post. Those that are in Reddit should follow this subreddit on JavaScript, and they were pointing to this link, where is a WebKit DOM visualizer. So it basically does the same thing that we want to do. And what you just need to do is like drag this to your drag this link to your bookmarks, and then once you do that, you can go to your page. In this case, it's index.html, and then click. Oh, I think I didn't bookmark the correct one. Maybe I did. Let me see if the old one works. Oh, yeah, this one does work. Let me try again. I could share it online. Oh, I think no, it is working. It's just that I have to move the mouse. And here I'm moving like the page sort of in 3D, and it is actually also all possible thanks to CSS. And I cannot see the other divs on top. A cool thing that I could do is I can click, and then I can see the two of them. You can see where this red one is my container. No, actually, this red one I think is the body. The outermost red one is the body. Then we have something else. Let's see how many layers do we have. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So the thing is that both of them are red, but this one around here. There. Holy cow. Yeah. Let me just set the zoom to 100 and then click here. And then click here. Okay. So this red outermost, this is the body, and then we can see that there is this other line. This is the bottom of our container, right? And then on top of that, we have these two with more of a pink color that are our left and right, which we haven't made into left and right yet. I just wanted to like show you here how they are sort of. We can think of them as just stacking on top of each other. So let's refresh this. Now, how can we make the left and right sides? We have two divs. They're currently like this. How can we make them sort of in two columns? Owen?
I
make it display grid. That's one option. Other options.
Can you change the width so we have 50% of the window?
Correct. So that's another option. I could make the, what I could do is I could make this one change the width to be 50% of the container, and then make it so that it's display block, not display inline, so that it only occupies that first half, and then the other one will come here if I also give this a 50%. And in that case, it will still create the same effect. So which one should we go with? So we have basically those two options. Let's go with the grid. So the container, we just do display grid. And then how many columns do we need? 2. So let's do grid template columns. And what is their size? We want each one to be 50%. Now we save. Let's go back here. Refresh. Visually, nothing changed. Let's see if we inspect. Now we have a left and a right, the way that we want it. If we use this again, now we can see them there. Our left and right. Cool, so that's something. What else should we do here? Like, what do you think will be the next step? Joanne? Right, so have these containers be as tall as the container, as the main container. How could we do that? How could we make the inner divs be as tall as the container? I mean, set the height to 100%. Let's try that. There we go. We have them both 100%. And in this case, all right, so we have this lower section. This lower section will be the area for our footer. Cool, so this is already looking like that, which is great. What else should we do next? Actually, let's keep describing here. Other boxes, maybe boxes inside other boxes. What can you see? So in here, can we put other boxes in here? Peter?
It looks like some of the text is like in individual boxes. Like the part that says explore looks like one box and one box and then personalize.
So if we inspect this, we can see that this is probably inside its own box. Here, we can see that each one is inside its own box. So we have something like 3 of them here. What else? Suzanne?
See what's happening now.
The right side?
Yeah, I put the header in one box, the buttons in another one.
Cool. So Suzette has something like maybe the icon in here in one box, then the header in another slightly larger box, and the buttons in another one. Cool. And if we inspect, we should find something similar. We can see that there is one sort of larger box that covers them all. As I hover here. Oh, okay. So we have this one, then we have that, then we have, oh, it seems like this one is another one, sort of on top of the buttons. Oh, but we can see also that the buttons have something. Okay, so we have something like this. Just where this box that I'm highlighting here is this one that I just drew here. Has one header at the top, that's this guy. and then it has another area that contains the 2 buttons, and in that inside of that we just have the 2 buttons. Right. In here we can see that this is another one that we have, and then we could put this into its individual boxes if we wanted to. Just put this like that. Cool. Any others? Yes.
When we supposed to make it like the actual Scalable page or the one that you posted on Pursuit? Because the one that you posted on Pursuit had also like the input boxes. Plus the login. So can we do either one?
Yeah, I think either one is acceptable. Yeah. I think let's.
That's why it's not showing the input box.
Oh, it's there. It's just that my Zoom. Right, but let's do that one. That would be like here. That would be another box that we want here. And then inside it has 2 div boxes and a button here. Cool. Anything else that I might be missing here?
How do you get the forget password
Oh, let's inspect. Probably there is a tiny box around here that has it. If we inspect.
Or it could be in the same box. Just one view.
Oh, but then I don't think I can get it with my developer tools open. We can see that in here the parent of this is that div, and then the parent of that is this. And there's this box. This box contains them both. So there's like another box that you have here that has the element, the input box, and underneath it's just a paragraph with the forgot password. Cool, and then I guess like the last thing is if we inspect here, we can see also that this is in another box. This is one large box. And then we have like a header, and a paragraph here, and then the other 3. So this is pretty much the CSS that we needed, or not the CSS, the HTML markup. This defines the boxes that we need to create. And if we create this with HTML, we'll basically end up with the login page for Twitter. Any questions here? Anytime you're building a website, do this first. Like try to break it down into boxes, and more even a website that we can inspect and see how it was built. This like a website like Twitter, they use a bunch of extra boxes that I still don't know why they're needed. They have like this box here. Maybe there might be like other boxes around here that are still like one main area. Cool. So yeah, questions before we start to put all these boxes in our HTML and lay them out. Okay, so we have, what do we currently have here? We have this. They're occupying those portions. Maybe let's make the right side white. So we could just go here. Grab the right side and make its background color white. Now let's go back to our page, refresh. Now we have this white side here. So you see it's sort of difficult to tell what we have, but then with that tool here we can see we can actually like do it like completely rotate the element 360, and we can see that underneath we still have the background color. Like we could almost pick inside of here. Oh yeah, it's sort of hard without the lines, but we can see that the background is still there. Cool, so we just need to put the image then under under this, like in between these two layers, basically. We need to put the image between the layer that has the white right side and the main container. So there are multiple ways in which we could do this. One is we could place an actual image tag, the one that we gave you. We could put the image tag in between the two by just placing another div. Placing another div that will be the same measures as the main container, and then we can position it with the positions of values that we learned, so that it sits in the background, but it will still be an element. So that's one approach, and I think that's the approach that the actual Twitter went with. You can see that the element here, is this? Yeah. If I can select it, this is actually an SVG image, right? We can see that the image is actually there. So somewhere they put, in between these two layers that they have, they put the image. Oh, let's try this tool here. Oh, it's kind of, this is interesting. But it's interesting because
image isn't in any container, it's just the whole page.
The image is in, I think the image is in the blue line. But we can see that it's kind of slow because of this was right. But the curious thing is, I wouldn't expect it to show me this might be like a bug that they have, because I mean this is pretty experimental, and it's basically that 3D thing that we're seeing is basically a hack that somebody thought of using CSS 3D properties that allow us to simulate this. But we can see that the image sort of comes through now once we are in this mode. But once we do ours, it shouldn't come through. But we can see, well, I guess we cannot really see it here, but let's just go here. So, okay, so that was one option. Actually have an image tag and just set it in between these two layers. Basically, introduce another div here in between the pink and the red. That is our image, and we can just make that image the same as the container. So that's one option. Another option I think Amin mentioned is the background color, a background image property in CSS. So it turns out that we could add a background image to any element, and that will be, you see how here we gave a background color? Imagine instead of this background color, aquamarine, we just have an image. So which one do you guys want to go with? Background color or element in the middle? Background color? Basically one vote. Cool, so for that, then we could just do, we want the container, instead of having the aquamarine background. So background is another one of those properties that background is broken down into multiple properties. So here, this background here is known as a shorthand property. That is because if we do like background dash, there are all these, you could think of them as sub-properties of background that you can set individually, but you could also just do it with one line. And here, one of those is background image. And then let's look at how we can use background image. Background image CSS. And they give us this example. Background image, background color, try it yourself. And we have this. So they are having, oh, let's try it here. Oh, this is cool. But we cannot see the page because the page is actually something else. But we can see here that background image, we could use a URL function and then specify a URL to an image, and you will use that image as the background. So that's what we need to do. So we go here and instead of this, we say URL. And then we need to specify a URL to our image, and I think it's in images, beer background. So let's just do images, beer background. Let's try this. So we did that. Let's close this. And let's try this again. And we have this, which is not very pleasant. Let's do, if we inspect, we can see that the container has indeed a background image here. We can see that the background image is applying and it's repeated also. Let's look at the 3D version. Oh, this is really cool. We can see that the image is, if we turn it that way, we have the image is being repeated. The background image is being repeated, sort of on the background image is being repeated horizontally and vertically as well. So, anyone found how we can get rid of that?
Background dash repeat.
Background dash repeat, and then no repeat as its value. Let's refresh this. We only see 1. If we activate our thing, we only have 1. Nice. So that's great progress. But how can we have it center? Douglas?
Background size 100%.
Background size. %. Let's try that. And we have our image. It looks bigger. I think it's probably 100%. Let's look at it here. There's some stuff that is being cut off. So, okay, so what does this say about our 100%?
It seems to stretch to the width, not the height.
Right, so that's something that we don't know. So let's go to background size, and let's, when we get bugs, it's just because we made some assumptions, and we just need to verify those assumptions, and then you will find the answer. Background size. Oh, this is a website I've never seen. CSS Reference. Auto. This is, we can specify pixels. Oh, look, they have 2 measurements here. So they have like 120 wide and 80 pixels high. Then they also have 100 and 50. Contain, cover. So it seems that we have a few options. Let's look at, I actually want to look at the documentation. Let's see what it says. Specify the size of the background images with auto and in pixels. The background property specifies the size of the background images. There are 4 different syntaxes that you can use this property. The keyword syntax, auto, cover, and contain. The 1 value says the width of the image. Height becomes auto. The 2 value syntax, first value is the width, the second one is the height, and the multiple background syntax separated with commas. So these are all the options that we have. And let's look at here what they mean. Percentage sets the width of the height, the width and height of the background image in % of the parent element. The first value sets the width, the second value sets the height. If only 1 value is given, the second is set to auto. So what this is saying is that we only specify 100%, and that 100% is the width. And the height will just be automatic. I think that's what you said, Douglas, right? The width will just be 100%. Sorry. And then we have this other resize the background image to cover the entire container, even if it has to stretch the image, and then contain, resize the background image to make sure the image is fully visible. Which one should we use? Should we try? Cover. Let's try cover. Let's go here, refresh this, inspect this. I wish we had two projectors where I could put my inspector tool somewhere else. The thing is, as I look at that, well, as I remove the zoom, the image gets cut off. But let's do this here. Container, background.
Do you want the whole image?
I want. Well, let's try. Which one was it? Cover. So cover seems to give us a very similar result to the 100%. It's just covering the entire element, and because it's only in this background image is only in the container. That's why we don't see it like here. We don't see it going down here, because this background image is only for this big container that we have here. But let's try some others. What was the other? Contain. Background size. Contain. This one seems a little bit, well, this one is the same as if we didn't have anything. Oh, almost the same. We can see some differences. See what it says about contain. Resize the background image to make sure the image is fully visible. So I like this one. What do you guys think? I like the contain. It will resize the image. What I like about contain is that it will resize the image so that it fully fits. So if the image is too small, it will grow the image to fit. Well, it will grow the image to its lowest dimension. In this case, is the height, right? So let's leave it background contained, but then now we have another problem, which is, well, I guess, like what is that problem that we have? It's not in the middle. So maybe there is a way to set the image to specify where the position of the background image is. So let's do, wait, we set background size to set it to contain. That gives us this. Now we're wondering, is there maybe a way in which we could center the image somehow? Did anybody find anything about like where to put it? How to specify where the image goes? So let's look at that. Background, position, CSS. The background position property sets the starting position of a background image. By default, a background image is placed at the top left corner of an element and repeated both vertically and horizontally. So we found that. It's inherited. Now default value is 0% and 0%. Beautiful. So this is basically what we need. Oh, and look at the syntax. Left top. We could use percentages. We could use pixels, and there are also keyword syntax. Left top, left center. So maybe we could just do center, center. Let's try that. Background, position, center, center. Oh, that's much more like it. If we inspect this, nice. We see that it's now in the center. John? Oh, so yeah, so I believe one will be sufficient, since if we learn here, it says if if you only specify one keyword, the other value will be center. So by default, if I say center, the other will be center. If I say left, then the other will still be center. So this is pretty cool. No, I'm using the one that I gave you, the PNG image. Oh, here. Do you have it here?
Yeah.
Cool. Questions, concerns, ideas. This 3D thing is really a game changer. So you can see that the image sits because the image is in the background of the main container, and then the other, the left and right containers are on top of that one. The image appears to be cropped, but under the hood is not really. The cool thing about this is that if we resize this like that, it will still be in the middle. So questions, ideas? Douglas?
Do we have to set a specific size? Because I feel like in the actual Twitter, when you resize, it stays the same dimensions. It sort of stretches over a little bit.
Wait, what do you mean, like?
So, like when you squish down our current, there it is.
Oh, you get like, oh, I guess like, I see what you're saying. Like, our footer is not appearing if we do this with ours, right? You can see that we have to scroll down for the footer. So in the actual Twitter, we have to scroll like very little. In fact, if we just have it this size, we don't have to scroll at all, which is nice. So the question is, how could we have ours also work like that? So that we don't have to scroll. Basically, if we have here, we change, we shouldn't have to scroll here. I mean?
That's because you set the height of the containers 2 pixels, and if you do percentage.
Correct. So that's because I have set here specifically that the container was going to be 500 pixels. And these are very static measures, right? There's 500 pixels and that's it. They don't adapt or they're not relative. So we could use percentages to accommodate some of that. Also, there is one. Okay, so how could we have our page be as tall as possible? Basically, occupy the entire browser window. Dinesh? So we could use a measure that is, some of you might have found on yourself, is the VH measure. And let's look at this. VH CSS. So VH is like percentages, but percentages are based on the parent container. So if I say 50%, it will be 50% of the 50% in the child element of whatever the parent element is. But view H is relative to the screen size. So here, VH relative to 1% of the height of the viewport. And then it specifies what the viewport is. Viewport, the browser window size, if the viewport is 50 centimeters wide, then so there's VH and VW, both are relative to the viewport. If the viewport, that is the browser window, is 50 centimeters wide, then one VW will be 0.5 centimeters. Because it will be like 1% of this 50 centimeters. So here the thing is, we cannot specify, we could try to specify 100% in the body. Let's look at our body. I think we can see that the body here is 600 pixels. And this body will automatically shrink or grow as needed for the content, for the entire content to fit. And it's currently 600 pixels because we have two boxes that are 500 pixels and then one box at the bottom that is 100 pixels. So if we remove those, if we remove like the footer height and the containers height, now we get back to 0. We can see that the body, we can only see the margins of the body, that the body has automatically some margins. This is what we're seeing here. And we can see that the height is 0. So you may think, oh, so we need to make the body 100%. The problem is that, with that, like, what is that 100% relative to? Like, who's the parent of the body? The HTML, and then you can think, oh, let's make the HTML 100%. Let's do height 100. Actually, let's hover over the HTML to see how big it is. So the HTML seems to be 16 pixels. Oh, I don't know. I'm not sure what those 16 pixels is. I think it's the margin of the body that makes it 16 pixels. So let's try to do on the HTML. Let's do height 100%. Oh, this seems to work too. If we set 100% in the HTML, then we have 100% there, which I was not expecting to work. But then what does this mean about, like, what is that 100% relative to? The HTML doesn't have any, like, parent per se. But what do you think? I mean, the window, right? So this, now if we say height 100%, it becomes relative to the window. We can see if we change this, you can see that we don't need to scroll, and we still have, oh man, this is really, we still have that in our HTML. So this is another way. We could go without VH and just do set 100% height in the HTML. Let's try to do it this way because I've never done it and I'm curious. Set the HTML height to be 100%. We refresh. We get that the HTML is 100%. That is occupying the entire browser window. And let's look at the body now. Our body is still 0 pixels high. So how could we make, well, now in here, since the parent of the body, which is the HTML, has a set height, then I could say body please be 100% high. And then that will be 100% of the parent, which is the body, which is the HTML, and it should work. Let's try it here. Height, 100%. And we get our body to be as high as the HTML, which is some progress. Then we can say the container, oh, I want the container is still 0 pixels high. Then I could say I want the container to always be, I don't know, 90%, and then the footer will be another 10%. But I had to set up a specific height in one of the ancestors for it to be taken into effect. Here we have this scrolling, which is annoying. Why do you think we have this scrolling here? I don't want this scrolling. Dinesh? Margin, right. So it turns out that this 100% of the, let's look at the HTML. The HTML is 829 pixels here. You can see it here. So it turns out that the body the body's content box, which is the innermost, will be, wait, we said, wait, no, the math now is not, oh, I guess, let me see. Box sizing. Content box. So I was expecting the Janesh? Yeah, but I was just thinking of this 100% should be, I think the content box of the body should be the same as the HTML, which is 829. Because I think, but then that means that what this means is that we're taking into consideration the margins. Those margins are counting. So if we do, let's try to see. So 813, and we have 8 and 8, which is still 16. Nine, 2, and 8. So, okay, the math checks out there. We have the body will be 829. The HTML will be 829 height, and then the body, we ask it to be 100%. But then to meet that 100%, we have extra borders that will make our element. Wait, does that make sense? Not sure, because if the body's total measurements are the same as this one, anyway, let's just get rid of those margins. Body margin 0. Come on, and we got rid of the scrolling. So definitely the scrolling was being done by those margins. Oh, and then we need to say also, oh, but there is no padding in the body, I think. Yeah, some people also set the padding. Maybe some other browsers will set the padding to something. But then let's do, oh, I had that wrong. And I also want the body to be height 100%. And then we have the body. Yeah.
When you do HTML and body in the same thing and make the height 100%, it doesn't give you the same result.
So you did this basically. HTML, comma, like that?
Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm getting the same result. I'm still getting the same result.
Yeah, I forgot.
Oh, yeah, this is another way we should get rid of this. I asked the HTML and the body to be both 100%, and I have to set them both explicitly. Now our container, then now our container can be, let's say, 80%. Instead of a fixed 500, let's do 80%. And let's set our footer to be, instead of a fixed 100%, 100 pixels, to be the remaining 20%. Refresh, and we get back our little bird over there. If we don't have any scrolling, which is nice, and once we inspect this, we have our 100% everywhere, which is cool. Now, if we still do this, nice. We don't get the annoying scroll bars. Because now we're using percentages. And the percentage, the root percentage is like the browser window. Right? And then because that's the root percentage, then we can just resize this and our content will adapt. That's somehow the beauty of percentages. Even they can be really tricky. Ganesh? Say that again? The Twitter bird is still not right. So what would we consider right?
Well, that thing is doing some weird stuff.
So like basically that is cropped out here, for instance.
It's like static and not static at the same time.
Oh, I guess. Well, you mean like what? How, this is the actual Twitter. You mean like how we could get it to do that? Right. So
It's like
that,
static in the center and the left is like
but that's thanks to the fact that they actually are not using a background image. They actually have an image there, and then they just resize that image. So that will be one downside. I don't know if you can still do it with background size, maybe instead of just percentages. But yeah, for instance, like that other thing that the image is getting cropped here, like the wing of the bird, that'll also be we can see the Twitter image sort of sitting in between, which is really cool. And this is even some, yeah, we can see that it's not perfect. Sometimes it looks like the image is coming like down here, but those are just minor. Okay, so what do you think is next? We set the image where we want it, or at least a good enough position. What should we do next? Maybe in these boxes, just do those boxes, I guess. Let's do here. Should we start? Let's start with the left. In the left box, I want this outer box here that is still inside. And I want that box because we can see that box is somehow center in the real Twitter. Is center, it looks like it's center both horizontally and vertically. So that's why I want this box. So I'm gonna create that in, what should I call it? Oh, also let's see if we can, I wonder if this other box is the same. No, so this box is different. Okay. So let's do in here, let's create a div. Let's maybe call this div, wait, I got confused. Here. Give it an ID. Actually, I don't need to give this an ID, but ID of content left, just like L content. And in this box, we have 3, 4 other boxes, but let's look at how Twitter has it. So there's this box, and then inside of that one, they just have the others. You can see that even like this is a div, and probably inside that div there is another div. Oh, in fact, they don't have this is not a header. This is just text in the div that we can make look like a header. Okay, so let's do. Actually, I want a header. I'm just gonna do H2. And H2 here. I'm just gonna copy this content. And then this seems to be, this looks to me like a paragraph. So I'm just gonna say a paragraph. And let's see what we have currently. Okay, we're somehow almost there. We added our box. Let's look at it from here. There we go. Now our layout is a little bit more complicated. Now we have this purple box here is the outer div, and then we have an H1 and a paragraph. Those are the blue boxes. Questions up until this point? Okay. Now, what I want to do first is I want to position the outer box. I want to position it in the middle of the left side, both horizontally and vertically. How can I do that? Hubel? Align items and justify content. But those before we could use those, we need something else. What's the other piece, Karen? The flex display property. So yeah, I think that is the easiest way to center anything on a page. Just making the container a flex, and then specify and justify content and align items. I remember having to center stuff without those, and it was just much more tricky. So let's do so. To what element should we apply the display flex? The left content. Oh, the left content, or just left? Left, because the children L content is the one that we want to put in the center, and only the parent can do that. The parent can put elements, align the elements. So let's do. Also, let's give that box a background so that at least we know where it is, without having to go in the 3D thing. I'm going to do that by doing left. I'm going to do left, and I want inside of the left. I'm going to use the descendant selector. Inside of the left, I have a it's the left, just the left. Display flex. No, before this, what I wanted to do was give the left who has a L content with a, is it an ID? Yeah, so I want to select that. I want to give the L content a background color that is semi-transparent so that at least we know where it is. Do I need to do the angle bracket, you mean? So the angle bracket, if we remember, is the direct child. So I could, in this case, both will work. The angle bracket will be direct child, so you will only select an element only if it's the direct child of left. In this case, it is. But I could also just do it like that, and this will be descendant regardless, meaning it doesn't need to be a direct child to be something. Just a space, yeah. And then I want a semi-transparent color. We have another function in CSS called RGB, and that allows us to specify the three main colors, which I forgot which ones they are. Oh, right, they are they're encoded in the red, green, and blue. So I want, and all of those are, the maximum value is 255 or 254. 55?
Yeah.
And I want 100 of red and 100 of green and 100 of black. That ended up giving me this sort of gray. that if you're on VS Code, you can also modify from here. For some reason, it's not working on mine. But let's look at that. Okay, so that gives us that. It gives us a grayish background color. And I want, oh, there you go. What I want is, I want it a little bit transparent. So there is another function that is RGBA, and that A means alpha, and alpha when we're doing sort of image editing, just means transparency. That will be an easier way. And I want it to be 50% transparent, so I want to do that by 0.5. Now, if I refresh, you can see here that I currently cannot see the wing of the tip. Now, once I refresh, now you can see that it's semi-transparent. So we got some. And I just did this so that we can look at it and know where the element is, actually. At the end, we're going to remove this background color. Cool. So now let's actually center it as Karen and Hupel suggested. Let's do the left. We want it to be display flex and justify content, center, align items, center. We have that. Now we go back here and refresh. There we go. We have it a little bit better in the center. Questions or comments? Let's look at it here. Yeah. Cool. So this is closer. Now we just need to make it a little bit more. We just need to put the other content and maybe make it a little bit more thinner than what it actually is, or not so wide. So let's see how they actually did it here. What is their measurement for their the width of this box? Width. So we see that they have, this is a good use. They have a max width of 440 pixels. They just set this to be not bigger than 440 pixels, which I really like, because if you have more, then it will just be, if you have more than those pixels, it will just still be 440 pixels. And that's the one that is applying now. I want to see, what if I lower this here? What if we have it like here? And here, probably they have a different width. Okay, so I cannot see where they have a different div, a different width. Let's try and make it actually the exact same max width. Let's do L content max width 440 pixels. So I just put max width in the L content, and there we go. We have it exactly the same as the actual Twitter with 140 pixels max. We can see that this box has some padding. As I hover over it, we see that it has a padding of 16. I actually want to go ahead and do the same thing, just a padding of 16. Change that, padding 16 pixels. We can see that padding, even though up until when it's not the mobile layout, here, we still see the padding is just like, it's still there. It's not. It makes it like look nice, not putting the text just together to one of the edges. If we don't do that, we have what we get here, which is the text here is right on the edge, and it doesn't look that nice. We want some spacing around. So that's why I want to do padding 16, because the padding will push the content inward, and then we have some space around it. Okay, this is looking more like it. Let's put the rest of the stuff. So we did the header, and then I wonder if the icons are in its own little box. I don't think so. Yeah, no, these icons are just divs put in there straight. So let's just do it exactly like that. Okay. We will need 3. And let's do, so it seems to me that we have this div, and this div might be broken down into other parts. So inside, we see, inside of one of these icon boxes, we have a span element that has the icon. We have another div inside of it. This div seems to be the content, this content to the right of the icon. And then inside of there we have another div with the explored word, and then one last div with the get latest tweets paragraph. So we just need to do the same. So you can see how, imagining that this is our icon box, like this little one. They divided this thing even more. So they have a span that will be like a box like here, and they have this other box. And this other box is divided into 2 more. So that we can do this. So I guess then we'll need to do that. So this div, yes.
That's for like with the hashtag explore part, or?
Yes. So this box that I drew up here is only for one of these icon boxes here. This. Only that. Also, let's look at it. Let's look at it in the 3D how it's looking. So we currently have this. Yes, it's a grid with 2 columns. Yes, 50% and 50%. Actually, I don't think we're gonna get to cover everything, since I want to give you some time for doing the lab. So the icons, and what else was really challenging that we should cover? We covered the background. Then the layout grid flexbox, we sort of got that. And then the icons part. So let's just cover the icons. And then, okay, so we found that those boxes are, inside of those boxes we have even more boxes. They use a span. Let's just use this span ourselves too. Inside of that, they have a div. I don't know why this. Inside of that div, they seem to have something like a header that I want to do H3. And then under that header, they have a div, but I want it to be a paragraph. And I'm just going to copy this content from here. Explore. The explore goes into the header, and then get the latest goes into the paragraph. Let's just look at, see what we have. Okay. We have our explore there. Then we just need to put the icon. So for the icon, there are multiple approaches you could have gone with. You could also find an image online and then just make that image really small. That is an image of a hashtag. You'll want the image to be transparent though, so that there is no background on it. And those are general PNG. So I could do a hashtag PNG icon. And you could have used one of these. Also, you know that it's truly transparent if you see like the checkboxes. I don't know, like, and some of them are even fake. So let's look at this one. I think these checkboxes are this sort of checkboard that you get in the back. I think this one is fake.
I think it depends on the extension.
Say that again?
It depends on the image.
Right, it depends on the image, but it could be a PNG. Not only, it could be a PNG with a background still. So let's look at this. We can find it if we do open image in, oh, no, not that. Open image in new tab. Here we can see, if this was truly an image without a background, we wouldn't. Let's use this one. This one looks correct. Yeah. You see the checkboard is a little bit smaller, and once you open it in a new window, open image in a new tab, we don't get the background. You could just get the image. So we could use this. We could also use font awesome. Font awesome is a font that has icons in it that you could use. But for I have never signed up for Font awesome. I don't know if I want to do that now. Wait,
Add the link to your page.
somebody was able to do it without signing up?
Yeah.
So where do you find that? Where do you find the link? Because yesterday Joanne had to sign up.
You can add a link to your header. I sent it to you on the slide.
Thanks. But where do you get this link from?
This one?
What if it's a virus? Oh, but this is your link. Where do you find this link?
I don't know, somewhere on the page.
This is somebody's link, and I think this will work. Yeah, because now you have to sign up. Before it was just like copying a link and that was it. But in this case, I'm just gonna copy this. Wait, is this not your link?
I don't know.
Okay, then let's just share it here for everyone.
Let me give you one.
But the thing is, like, Font awesome made it so that if you're making a website and you're the developer of that website, you use like your own. They give you a link that's unique to you. Thanks. I think we could just use. Oh, this is another one. This is the older version.
Yeah, that's it over. All you guys do is just type in the right class. And you get the right.
Yeah. So this is another. This is the older way. Just paste both of them here. You can see that one is through JavaScript and the other one is through a CSS. And both work, I think. Let's use the CSS one. So for that, I just need to add this link here on my HTML, just as if it was a regular CSS. In fact, this is a regular CSS. It's just that this CSS I didn't write, they wrote, and they put it at this URL for people to use. So Font awesome is a font, and you could do, if we go here and we go to icons, they demonstrate how you could use them. But is Twitter using Font awesome here?
Yeah.
and I don't want to find out now. Yeah, so here are all the icons that FontAsm has. And I'm interested in the hashtag. So I'm just going to do hash. And we have found one. You can see that this is why like they want these instructions, I believe, are clear. Oh, but
I noticed you didn't finish the Twitter thing, so you can finish it eventually, right?
I could finish it eventually, but how far do you get?
Mine is not pretty, but it looks.
I mean,
It looks good in the full page. It's not responsive. So that's why. Because yours is responsive.
That's true. I mean, that's just because of the body and the HTML are set to be 100%.
I could show you my Twitter thing. Maybe.
Sure.
Later.
Yep.
Okay, thanks.